Welcome to the Activity Call Live. Let's hear it for our special guest host, Joe Dukes.
Fine. In the words of Noel Levitovich, my hair's on fire. Guys, I am super fired up. It's welcome to the activity call. Probably one of the most challenging things I've done recently is when I get that text and they ask, "Hey, are you willing to to jump on the activity call and run it?" And I got to tell you, I was calling Alex Avian, I was calling Mike and Noel, I was calling people trying to figure out, like, hey, what in the world am I doing? And how can I add value? Because I know after following, if you guys did not listen to Alex Abian and Adam Katz last Friday, like, totally melted my brain. And then to be followed up by Jake and Bray on Wednesday this week. I mean, and it's crazy, like every call that we've had in the last 6 months, it just keeps adding value. Like my background, I spent a number of years working in mortgage banking, and what I found in the mortgage world, or at least in the corporate mortgage world, it always seemed like we had meetings just for the sake of having meetings because some manager wanted to justify his position and talk about, usually some nonsense, and it was usually planning for the next meeting. The thing I love about our calls is that there's so much value added. So I'm super grateful that we got some amazing guests on here today, and I'm just excited to get this thing kicked off. Discipline. It's one of those, it's the dreaded curse word. We all love to talk about the work and the dream and motivation and I think I was talking with Venus this morning, and she's like, I think that people confuse motivation with being inspired. They confuse inspiration with motivation. And I know that for me, there's been a lot of times, and maybe you can relate, there's a lot of times that I'm looking to be inspired. When I first started this, 17 years ago, I was working this part-time. And when I went full-time, I realized that I was disciplined in my schedule simply because I had to be. I had a job. My boss forced me to be at my job, Monday through Friday at a certain time, which meant that I could look at my calendar and I could figure out, hey, I have this limited amount of time, so I have to get all my work done here. And one of the things that happened to me early on when I went full time in this business, I thought, well, hey, I'm successful literally doing this on Saturday only. When I open up my calendar and go full time, man, we're going to make $1 million. We're going to have Learjets and luau's, and it's going to be awesome, like right out of the gate. And I just about, like, it was crazy, like 90 days in, Mike Levitovich, this is really where you're grateful for your coach. When your coach picks up the phone and calls you and says, bro, what the actual hell are you doing? Because I'm looking at your paycheck and it's non-existent, and I'm looking at your activity and I haven't heard from you. And I realized that I totally lacked self-discipline. I was being disciplined because I was forced to be disciplined in my job. But, I love this sign behind me, because discipline, guys, really does equal freedom. So, I brought some of my buddies on here to kind of talk about that today, so we can walk through some thought processes and the journeys that these absolute warriors have come on. So I want to get kicked off and talk to Jake and Bray, who are, if y'all don't know, they are a bad to the bone couple out of beautiful Albuquerque. So Jake, Bray, just real quick, I know people have been listening to you lately, and you guys are always at the top of the leaderboards. Andy talks about you all the time. You're on all these calls. But what a lot of people don't know is that, hey, behind closed doors, you're still just Jake and Bray. I know everyone's just like, oh my gosh, it's Jake and Bray. I mean, and it's awesome because you guys are amazing and you've done some amazing stuff. But like take me back, Bray, when you first got started. Explain, talk about how your discipline level was and your focus, and were you like all in, like, dude, this is going to be amazing, and I'm going to be doing exactly what Mike and Joseph tells me to do.
That's a good question. Well, thank you so much for having us on. We're super grateful that you chose us. I hope that you know how much Jake and I appreciate you and Venus, and you guys have been definitely a big part of our success. So we love you guys. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to use was, I'm always fired up out of my mind, excited about this business. And when I first started, I had seen a couple here in Albuquerque who had 2 kids the same age as our kids at the time. And she was making it, the way that it was presented to me was she was making an extra $500 a week doing this part time. And so I looked at her and I said, wow, if she can do that, why not me? So I will say, I do believe that I've always been pretty disciplined, but I was disciplined to what I wanted at that time, right? So, because when I was first hired, I came on with the idea of if I could make an extra $1,000 a month, that would help Jake and I out, because Jake was the primary breadwinner. The girls were in daycare. I was going to school full time and working part time at a doctor's office. So for me to make an extra $1,000 a month, I was told, oh, that's 2 apps, right? So I definitely, from the beginning, was always just super disciplined to my schedule of, okay, I want to get 2 apps. But then I realized quickly after like the first month or 2, some apps are higher, some are lower. It's just an average, right? So I think one of the mistakes that I made in the beginning anyways was I was putting in as little activity as I can and wanting to get the max results. So that was something that, I would say I struggled with a little bit, because I was, going to school, working at the doctor's office and wanting this to work, but not realizing how much effort I was actually going to have to put into it. So that changed quickly. I don't know if you want me to talk about that yet.
Yeah, but please. No, I want to give the people what they came for. They need to know that the real Jake and Bray.
Yeah, so that changed pretty quickly. I think my first month in, so for those of you, this isn't some huge out of the gate success story. If you're expecting that, let's listen to Alex Avian instead, okay? But my first month in the business, I made like $232, right? Because I wrote 1 app, and that was on myself and 1 client. I remember she asked me when I got there, well, what's the difference between whole life and term life? I said, that's a great question. Let me call somebody. So I called Jara. She helped me close the deal. But my first month in the business, I made $232, and that was off of 2 applications. My second month in the business, I made $900, and that was off of, I believe, 4 applications. So when I started to realize, okay, in order to get what I want, I have to put in more, I became pretty disciplined in the fact of I'm going to run appointments this week, no matter what. And, Jake was working a job. He would have to be at work at 6 a.m. He would get out at 6 p.m. So he was leaving the house by 5 a.m. and he was home by about 7 to 7:15 p.m. So what I had decided to do after talking to you and Jara was, okay, I'm going to have to make this work in the time that I have, because when the girls were at daycare, that was my time for my school schedule as well as my doctor's office job. So then what we decided to do was just make work what we can. So I used to take the girls in the car with me, and I would book 1 appointment an evening. We don't recommend that because, you get no-showed and it seems like the end of the world, but that's the time that we had. So I would book 1 appointment an evening, and I would take the girls with me in the car, and Jake and I would meet on the side of the interstate and swap cars. So we'd pull over, he'd jump in the car with the girls, take them home, because that was 7:15 at night, and I'd go run an appointment at 7:30. And I did that every single night, Monday through Friday. Most Saturdays, Jake worked from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it was kind of real hit or miss, because he wouldn't know till Friday at lunch if he was working a Saturday or not. So he would call me on a Friday and he'd say, I'm working tomorrow. So I'd say, okay, I'm going to book 1 appointment, 2 appointments for Saturday evening. He would call me at Friday and say, I'm not working tomorrow. And I'd start hammering the phones to try to get 6, 7, 8 appointments on the books for the next day. So it was real sporadic, but we just worked with the time that we had.
So how did you guys change that from, like, first of all, like, and this is a great question or a great conversation, because the discipline that it took for you guys to figure out we're going to do whatever it takes Like discipline in my head is being willing to do whatever it takes. I mean, and it comes down, it comes down to the coin, what do you want? And the reality is that, so what you're talking about is that you figured out that you were going to be disciplined enough to do whatever it took, even if it meant swapping cars in the middle of the interstate and then going and running that. What changed to be able to get you guys? Because I know that it's morphed over time, but for you, what's changed with your discipline to get you guys to where? Because Jake was still working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, crazy schedule. How did you bring him home?
Well, I'll let him speak to that because he was a big part of that. But for me, I started making money in the insurance, right? When I started taking that serious and doing this 1 day a week, because I wanted so badly to just be able to contribute to the family. Jake never told me I needed to work. He never put that on me, but I've always wanted to work, right? So I really appreciate the stay-at-home moms. You guys are warriors. That was not for me. I might have ended up in jail had I had to stay at home with both those kids. But that just wasn't for me. And so, for that discipline, the way that I saw it was I wanted to get out of the doctor's office. I loved working for him. He was a great man, very sweet. If the kids were sick, the kids were there with the doctor's office with me, right? But for me, I wanted to leave that doctor's office. So I was like, okay, what am I going to need to do to replace my income? And Jake had seen an interest in it. So then we started game planning. Okay, what is it going to take, for us to replace his 6 days a week, right? What kind of income is that going to take? And so that discipline came in by talking to you, by talking to Jara, Mike, and Noel, of just, this is what you're actually going to need to do. When you feel like doing it, you're going to do it. When you don't feel like doing it, guess what? You've got to do it, because if you're serious about this, this is what you need to do. This is the action plan that you need to take. And I wanted so badly to leave the doctor's office. I wanted so badly for Jake to join this business with me. So for me, I was like, well, the only way to do that is I've got to put numbers on the board, right? We can't just say we're going to do this. I've got to do it in the time that I have.
Jake, pray tell, what was your thinking at this point as you're watching your wife go out and do something completely different than anything she's ever done? She's working in an office, she's going to school for nursing, and all of a sudden she becomes an insurance salesperson.
I gotta say, it's so funny. Like, we've been together, 13 years. It's almost like our brains have morphed into one. Knowing that we've been doing this together, because we just had an instance yesterday where something happened with the girls on the bus and their friends, and we got to each listen to the kids and counsel them and give them, like our 2 cents and talk them through it. And it's funny because I had time to talk to them by myself, and then Bray had time to talk to them by herself. And then the girls came together last night and said, it's funny, you guys said the exact same thing. Dad told us the exact same thing that Mom told us. And it's funny because Ray just basically said what I was going to say about, the discipline didn't come on our own. It came by seeking coaching, right? You talk discipline over motivation. I was just telling Ray, I don't think I'd ever told her before. But when I first saw this business, like, I saw the trips and I saw the money. And the first thing I thought was, like, all my buddies were young, had no kids, making money in the movies, and they could just spend it on whatever the heck. They had nice trucks, nice dirt bikes. So I always wanted a nice truck.
You're driving a Silver Bullet.
And I say 2007 Pontiac G5, still running the Silver Bullet. And I was like, I wanted a new truck so badly. And the motivation for me was the fact that, I could go make $500 a sale. Like, I calculated in my head by January of 2019, by the summertime, how I could have, like, a brand new Ford Raptor. And in my head, I had this vision of me in the desert doing donuts. Like, I could post it on the band app, like, look at all this money I made in insurance. And I had this, like, clear vision. And then I get on the phones and call my first lead. And, like, she might have been on something. But I call her and she starts cursing at me, and then her boyfriend gets on and starts cursing at me. And just the motivation went from here with me doing donuts with my mullet, like screaming "Yay America" in a Ford Raptor in the desert, going like straight to zero, like, oh man. And it just completely killed everything, right? And so I love when you talk about discipline over motivation, because if we just live off of motivation, it doesn't work.
Screwed, bro. You're screwed.
You're screwed. And so the discipline part, I think I've probably shared this a couple times, but it just hits so hard, is the fact that, when it came to the phones and me dialing, it was just a mess. It was you did not want to watch. You did not want to watch. You did not want to listen. It was terrible. And I'd like call some, and then I'd give up, and then call some, and then give up. And then finally, like, I had a conversation with you where you were like, dude, there was like almost 20 contacts and like one appointment booked. And you were like, bro, you need some coaching. Like, you need to stop. You need to be disciplined to the system and ask for help and get the teaching and coaching. And once I had this conversation with you, and then not only that, on the scheduling side too, like Noelle told us, how can I remember just when we went full time, I was waking up late, sleeping in this and that, because I was so tired of waking up at 4:30 in the morning. She was like, why are you going to give your boss more than you give your own business? And that really, and I was like, dang, Noelle, are you trying to help me or hurt me? Like, that sunk deep. And she was helping me. So just became, through the help of you guys, like asking for guidance and constant communication. We made sure that we were calling you guys more than anyone else on the team was calling you all. And through that, that's where the discipline came in, and we just built a habit, knowing that that's what we have to do. Right.
Dude, that's such a big thing. It's and I think that you hit the keyword. Discipline and habit are almost the same word. And then, in fact, I was it was crazy. So, like, dude, I've been stressing about. I'll just tell you, I've been stressing about this call. But like, I've been like, oh my god, I got Alex Avian on here. I got Jason and Olga, and I got Jake and Bray, and I'm like, I got these guys who are going to be on here. And I'm like, hey, don't screw it up, dude. So I literally woke up at like 3:00 this morning. I woke up out of a dead sleep, going, oh shit, I got a call here in like 5 hours. I'm like, okay, you know what? All right. You know what? I usually go to the gym at 6, but I can't this morning because I got to be in the office early and blah, blah, blah. So I start thinking, I'm like, but there's a 5:00 class. And so in my head, I'm literally laying there at 3:30 going, I could go back to sleep. I get some writing in, get some, I'm just like, no, I don't need to go to that. Now, I could not go to the gym today, and no one would say anything. And then in my back of my head, I don't know if any of you guys, you may like David Goggins, you may hate David Goggins, but all I can hear is kill your inner bitch voice. So That's what's going on in the back of my head. And so it was literally, I walked into the gym, and the guy who was there, we were talking about, he had jacked his shoulder up a while back, and we were just talking. He says, hey man, I come here every day, even if I'm not going to do the workout, because I know that for me, it's the habit of showing up. If I show up and all I do is get on the bike and get some movement in, it's the habit of getting out of bed and going to the gym at the same time every day. And this guy, he's in his late 40s, early 50s, and he is yoked. I mean, this guy is like I watched him the other day. He's literally doing like handstand walks across the thing, and he's lifting all this weight. I'm just totally amazed by him. But I realized that didn't just come overnight. Right? We're all looking for that instant raptor, right, Jake? We're all looking for that. Hey, man, I woke up this morning. I had 80 grand in my bank account. I went and bought me a new Ford Raptor. Would you say screaming America, doing donuts in the desert? I mean, we're all wanting to do that. Like it's kind of like as a dude, I want to be I want to be strong, and I want to feel good about me. And, the problem is that when you first go, at least when I first went in the gym, it was just like, I had a pot belly, and I was like, dude, I'm watching 60-year-old women, lifting weights heavier than I am and doing pull-ups. And I'm just like, okay, cool. This is going to be a journey. So the cool thing is that you guys are talking about the journey of where you started. And I know that you are nowhere near where you're wanting to be at. But the coolest thing I've been able to watch is I've been able to watch this journey of where you guys started and be part of that process and see that, hey, you know what? Discipline has equaled freedom in your life because you guys have been able to, I see the time you get to spend with your girls now. I see the financial impact that you're making not only on your family, but on all these other families because you're willing to invest in your office, you're willing to invest in each other, you're willing to invest in new agents, you're willing to invest in staff. I mean, it's you guys are changing lives because of the discipline, and it's that example of just showing up when you don't feel like it. I know, Jake, both you and Bray have been traveling a lot, going out and serving the team, leaving your home, leaving your babies, leaving each other, and it's the discipline of that. So I want to thank you guys for being great leaders, for being great students, and know that and being willing to reach up and ask those questions, because that's how I know you guys are going to continue to take over and hit board member and hit senior board member and move on and on and on and just be able to lead a team of literally, I see thousands of agents that you guys will have on your team. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. I remember, so one of my favorite books is this book. It's Discipline Equals Freedom. It's the field manual. And I literally have all these books here on my desk that I was thinking about, okay, what books best epitomize freedom or discipline? And I realized that, that the one that's on the top of my list is here. It's Andy Albright's book. It's the 8 Steps. It's when Noelle gave me this book. She, when Andy first wrote it, she says, Joseph, if you will read this book once a month, until you make $100,000, it will not be that long. And she was absolutely right. And it's just because if you do this stuff every day, then you can't help but get better. And Alex Avian was talking when we were at Breakthrough about something he got out of this book, Atomic Habits. And this book has become one of my new favorite books because, kind of like I was saying, we all are looking for that instant overnight success. We're all looking for the instant oatmeal. You wait, you put it in the microwave and bing, it's immediately hot. And hey, breakfast is ready and we're ready to go. We're looking, who doesn't love to get the infomercial, 5-minute abs? For me, I'm like, I would love 5 minutes. I'd love to find my abs. If I could find them in 5 minutes, it would be great. And I realize it's you mean we're all looking, and why do those things work? Because everyone's looking for the quick fix. Everyone's looking to, they aren't looking for discipline because because discipline in their head is hard. They're all looking for that motivation, that inspiration of, man, why should I get up today? Why should I wake up and do what other people are not willing to do? But it's those inspirational stories that we all love. I remember, when Jake and Bray first told their story of when they got pregnant in high school, people were just amazed at watching this couple that, where they were to where they are today. If you guys didn't get to listen to Bray's mama, Amanda, on Wednesday, oh my gosh, y'all need to go back and listen to that call, because dude, the acorn does not fall from the oak there. That woman is a warrior, and you can see where that warrior mentality is passed on. But it's why association is so dang important. Getting around people who won't be held down. And one of the guys who I love to read about in a riddle, I think, was the one that turned me on, and it's this dude here, David Goggins. Now, some of y'all may not like Goggins because the man does cuss a lot. I think the F word is his favorite word. It is an adjective. It is a verb. Is it a noun? It is everything to him. But the thing I loved about Goggins' first book is that he's vulnerable enough to where he shows a picture of himself at 23 years old. He was 300 pounds. He was this fat, undisciplined, slovenly guy who had washed out of the Air Force. And And he was like, I mean, he's talking about it, and he's eating like junk food all the time, and he's 300 pounds. And he went and joined Navy SEAL selection. And it was nuts, because you look at him today and the guy is like an ultra marathoner. He's done like, he held the world records for the most pull-ups, did 4,000 pull-ups in 17 hours. The guy is a psychopath. But it's crazy, because we all look at who he is today and go, man, I could never be that dude. And then on the other side, we go back 20 years to where his journey started. And I think I can relate to that guy. I can relate to the fat kid. I can relate to the guy who had no discipline, who was living in his mama's basement, who had the crappy job because that was where his self-image is. He was cleaning cockroaches out of like greasy spoon restaurants because that was where his self-image was. And now you look at him today and you're like, hey, you know what? It was, but he talks about in his books, Can't Hurt Me. And in this one, Never Finished, he talks about the discipline of, hey, how I unshackled my mind through massive discipline, through, and he says, I hate getting up in the morning, but I get up anyway. When I think about, I got to go run today, he looks at his shoes and says, man, I just don't want to do this. So, but he puts his shoe, he may stare at the shoes for a half hour, but he eventually gets his shoes on and goes and runs. So I want to get, a guy who's, now his wife is an absolute rock star who y'all know. And I loved Olga's story when she first, when I first heard Olga Mathis talk about the fact that, and she's got that great Colombian accent, and she's talking about, I like tried to make 900 dials and I'm not booking anything. And this woman would drive across the state of Florida twice a week to go and get coaching and training. And when I met her, I was just like, this lady is amazing because she's got the discipline to do that. But then when I met her husband, Jason, he and I kind of share same background in mortgage lending. And I saw a dude who would not be denied. But I know that, Jason, you and I have talked a little bit, and if we could get Jason on here, that would be great. We've talked a little bit about like how you started and stuff, but like walk me through, bro. Were you always, you're at the top of the leaderboard for recruiting, your team is blowing up, you have a massive organization, you're a board member, you got the big fat ring, you guys are rolling in, over $500,000 a year in income. Like, dude, help me understand, was that the way it always was? Did you just come into this deal rolling that heavy, or tell me a story, bro?
What's up, Joe Dukes? Thanks for having me on, brother. Appreciate it.
Grateful.
I love this topic, discipline. It's when the Alliance came knocking at our house, Olga answered the door and she's like, I'm going to open up my own agency with these Alliance people. And I'm like, oh God, I need to make some money. I want to retire. I was like you, slinging mortgages at the bank. I was at Mama Bammel, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. And, she started dragging me. She's like dragging me to the meetings, the training events in Jacksonville and these national training events and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh my God, can she just make some daggum money? Will she make a call? Will she do something? And, she was trying to recruit me into the business, and I was at corporate America. And at corporate America, the crazy thing about corporate America, Joe, is you don't have to have discipline to be successful. At corporate America, there's this cube that you can live in. If you stay in the box, you can have anonymity and you can hide there. And as long as you're not in the bottom 30, 40 percentile, like, you're going to have a job. And when she started dragging me around to the Alliance, I started meeting people like you and Avian and Riddle and Chris Long. And I was like, these jokers get after it. Like, I from the outside looking in, I was like, I don't know if I really want to run with these boys, because that's going to cause me to have to be disciplined. Like, I'm going to have to really, I don't have a boss telling me this is good, this is bad. I don't, you're forced to go to the trainings. They clock you out and, 300 people get into the auditorium and they train you on the new software or the new product or whatever they do. And then you're basically spoon fed, you're force fed to learn it and then implement it. And, I was and I had come through a financially horrific event. And at the end of 07, 08, just lost tons and tons of money in the mortgage debacle. I was doing residential and commercial lending for my own shop, and just got whacked on that. And me and Olga had spent a lot of time, money, and effort into that and didn't see the return we wanted. And so I went crawling back to corporate America, man. I just, I just, Cubeland USA. I don't know if I can say this I was suckling from the teat of corporate America, and that was my discipline. I had just decided that was my plan within my plan. I was going to just climb the corporate ladder, Joe, as high as I could get into lower middle management, because I was a college dropout. I didn't have a degree. I didn't go to Harvard or MIT, but I was a pretty good salesman. I had learned at this point in my career how to play the schmooze game at corporate America. And then I saw these boys, these men over here at the Alliance. And, when my wife was dragging me around, and I was like, no, I ain't doing it. I ain't going to do it. I ain't going to run with these boys. I don't want to play ball with them. They still, what's weird, if you ever see like a kid that's, like 6 years old, still playing t-ball, and they put the ball in the tee, and he just gets up there and yokes one out of the park, and he is fired up. This joker is going to crush the world. And I'm like, when did I lose that? It started to dawn on me in my head. I was like, I used to have that kid. I used to have him inside of me. And somehow corporate America, I allowed corporate America to just crush it and take it away and make me small. And when I started to get around the Alliance, guess what happened, Joe? I started to dream. I started to think, you know what? Maybe this 46-year-old has got another shot with these boys over here. And I started to understand Albright's story and what he'd come through and done. And eventually I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. So I started part-time, did that for 4 or 5 months, and then went full-time and sold for a little bit. And talking to everybody, like, you can make money by training people and teaching them how to do e-apps and pointing them to the university. And I'm like, oh, well, hell, I did that at corporate America. I was a corporate trainer. I was a SME at corporate America. That's a subject matter expert. And so I said, I can do this over here at the Alliance. And that's what we started to do. And my wife started to get more disciplined, and I started to get more disciplined. And the funny thing about discipline is it grows on itself. Discipline begets more discipline. And what I love about the Alliance is the non-physicality, meaning, when I was in high school, I played basketball against D. Brown, and he won the slam dunk contest in the NBA. And, you don't got to play ball against him for long to know that you're not going to the NBA, Jason. Like, it's just not going to happen. So, I didn't have a 48-inch vertical leap. I wasn't pretty enough to model, so you don't have the physicality to be great at the Alliance. You don't, the God-given talent is simple. It's making a phone call. It's, what the other thing I loved about the Alliance is you don't have to have this huge mental capacity, as far as figuring out calculus, or being able to, figure out the Pythagorean theorem or anything like this. And the great thing about it is the hardest thing I do is just add up my commissions, and they allowed me a calculator for that. So I was like, I can do that. And with the ARC, it adds it up for us, So I was just like, man, all I got to do is make phone calls and talk to a person that filled out a dagnum form. And, I was like, I started to dream, and I was like, my past failures and successes do not have to define my future. They don't have to. My past does not going to write my future. I can sit here and learn from awesome. I remember talking with Abian at the first event I went to, my wife dragged me to in 2013. So 10 years ago, Alex had a big agency, and I was just picking his brain about this recruiting thing and chatting with him about it and to seeing if I wanted to run with these boys. And he poured into me, and, you know, I could tell that everybody, I believe, has a super hero talent, and Alex is connecting with people and letting people know that he truly cares about them and wants to help them. And I just felt that from Alex. You know, I was like, this kid really cares. He, you know, at the time he was coming back, he had the crazy orange hair spikes. I loved it. I was like, he's not scared, and he gets after it. And he's got some fruit on the tree, you know. So I didn't have to allow my past to dictate my future. And the other thing I love about discipline is it beats discipline. Joe, will beat talent every time. So if you're non-talented and you didn't get a 1600 on the SAT, okay, you can come and open up your agency under the Alliance and Integrity umbrella, and you can build a massive damn organization, you know, with an awesome team, just an absolutely animalistic of a team that truly wants to go out there and help people. And we didn't care when I started running, and I was like, I don't care how bad I am. I'm just going to get a little bit better every single week with discipline. And it never changes. I had a conversation with Albright on May the 17th of this year, and we were looking at some of my discipline numbers and some of my undisciplined numbers. And, you know, he's like, man, you're awesome over here, but this right here, Bo, we got to fix. Like, you know, what are you doing to fix it? So, you know, getting disciplined in your numbers and in your business is huge. And we looked at those numbers, and I said, I'm going to get better at that. That sucks. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, what are you doing? And I started to tell him. He stopped me. He's like, all right, here's what you're going to do. You know, here's what you do. And I was like, what's that? And he started telling me, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So he set up a training call with Noel and a bunch of us leaders and a bunch of people. And he's like, do that, and then start teaching it to your team. And that's, you know, and we've been doing that, Joe, and the numbers are starting to show it.
Well, dude, the thing that thank you for sharing. Because what I just realized is that I love the fact that, yes, discipline trumps talent all day long. You know, John Maxwell wrote a great book called Talent is Never Enough. You know, you can find the most talented person, and you know, one of Maxwell's things is that I can beat you in a 100-meter race if you give me an 80-meter head start. I don't care if you're running against Usain Bolt, dude. You're going to beat Usain Bolt. If you give me a 90-meter head start, I'm going to smoke that fool. But the deal is that if so discipline, not if, but discipline also comes with the coaching part. Mm-hmm. So it's discipline and humility work like this. If all you have is like, I'm just going to be the hardest charging mofo out there and I'm going to run through brick walls, you're going to realize after a while that your face is a battering ram trying to get through a wall, instead of talking to your coach and saying, oh, the coach has a door right here, and the coach says, bro, 2 steps to the left, turn the knob, open it up, you know, and walk through the door. So, dude, it's one of the reasons I am so grateful that we have Andy Albright as our coach. It's one of the, like Andy is one of the coolest coaches, because he will let you smash your face against a wall until he's finally tired of, like, dude, you apparently you got the stick-to-itiveness that you're going to see if you can run your face through that 2x4. But, bro, can we have a talk? Can we, like, 2 steps to the left, turn the little knobby thing, open it up, walk through? Like, dude, that is a game changer. Like,
yeah, I'll tell you, one of the things I loved about the Alliance, Joe, was you don't have to, like, when you're in your business and you're growing it, we have a true shortcut in life, and there aren't many, is to get coaching. So if you just say, man, I'm facing this issue in my business, and, you know, you go talk to a Joe Dukes or an Abian or a Riddle and say, look, man, like, what do I do here See, this will make you get your discipline focus quicker. You have less stress. You have less anxiety. And this is the collective brain trust, I call it, in the alliance. Tap into it, guys. You throw in some discipline, you throw in some coaching, that's a true shortcut in life to blow up your business.
That is. Well, dude, I am so grateful for the work ethic that you got. I'm grateful for the discipline that you've been able to show, because, man, it gives. Like, I'm running. I'm watching what you're doing. I'm chasing after it. I'm like, dude, if Jason and Olga, who I absolutely love and adore, can crush this thing the way that they are, I'm excited to see what this bald fool can do. So, man, I'm grateful for you being
best looking bald headed man in the alliance, they say.
That's my, if they call me the bald ego, that's the way I'm rolling, dude. So thank you so much for being on, Jason.
Thanks, Joe.
Absolutely, man. So, guys, I am excited, because one of the best conversations that I ever had when I first got rolling full time in the Alliance, it was on an activity call, and it was an activity call like 15 years ago. So back when Jake and Beret were still in elementary school, it was I was on a call. And Alex Avian had called me up. I was just getting started doing this full time. I was making some money, and this is after, like, guys, I'm serious. The first 90 days I was doing this full time, I went from being successful at a certain level as a part-time agent to literally not producing anything for like 90 days. And then when Mike Leventovich sat me down and we started talking about, bro, like, let's get real with your numbers. Can you get disciplined in your schedule? Can you get disciplined in your calendar? And Mike worked with me the same way that Jake was talking about how he worked with him and Beret. And after about 6-7 months, Alex Avian asked me to jump on a call with him. And he shared something with me that has changed my life and has changed, I know, the lives of a lot of people on our team, because I share this story a ton. And when he told me, he says, bro, he says, you're going to be disciplined by one of two things. You're either going to be disciplined by your schedule, or you're going to be disciplined by your checkbook. And discipline by your checkbook sucks. It is terrible. It was painful. Like, dude, I hated running out of money before I ran out of money. And I was with Jake, man. I figured that I was going to make $1 bajillion and play Call of Duty all at the same time. It was like I was going to be able to hang out and do crazy stuff and not have to work. I could skate by on minimums. But the crazy part with this is that when you set your target at minimums, and Andy said this so many times, when your minimums will become your maximums. And so there's a law called the Parkinson's law. And Parkinson's law says that, and no, not Parkinson's disease, Parkinson's law. It talks about how given that any job will expand to fill the time allotted. So when I first started, and Mike's like, hey, bro, when are you dialing? And I'm like, dude, Tuesday's my dial day. Or I guess at that time, Saturday was my dial day. I'm like, Saturday's my dial day. And he's like, cool. Like, what time on Saturday? And I'm like, well, Saturday. He says, dude, that's a 24-hour chunk of time. And it was funny because I would wake up late, I would mess around all day, and then about 5 o'clock I'd start to freak out, Alex, because I didn't have any appointments, because I'd jack around all day and figure out, hey, I need to do laundry, I should probably wash the dog, I should wash the car. I was doing all this stuff that wasn't effective. But then by the end, it took me the full 24 hours to actually get anything done. And when Mike explained to me that, hey, bro, if you work in 2-hour time blocks and you start disciplining yourself, can you discipline yourself to work for 2 hours? I'm like, dude, I got ADD. And he says, yeah, I understand. He says, I know you got ADD. I'm like, I got like AD4K. It ain't HD, baby. It's like, I'm ready to go. And he's like, well, bro, like, how about you focus for 2 hours and dial? And can you focus for 2 hours? I'm like, yep. And then can you focus for another 2 hours and dial? I'm like, yep. And then can you pick up the little ringy and call me and say, this is what I did? I'm like, yep. So after doing that for about 6 months, Alex asked me to jump on a call with him. And so I'm just excited to be able to return the gift to be able to have Alex Avian on a call with me. Woohoo! So, Alex, bro, I'm so excited to have you on here. And, you have been like, I've been watching what you've been doing since you're my upline. I've been watching what you've been doing the last year since Breakthrough, and you shared some of that magic, and then seeing the work that you're putting in and the discipline and the focus. I'd love for you to, let's come full circle and talk about what discipline is doing and how you've been able to leverage your discipline in helping coach your agents to do the same thing.
Okay, that's a big question right there.
It is. I know.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it, man. Tell you what, I'm really honored to be on the call with my man, Jason Mathis. Man, he rocks. He's it's funny, Jason, when you talk about that time when we had chatted, I hardly even remember what I said, but, it just cracks me up. You never know what kind of impact you're going to have on anybody when they come up to you and start picking your brain. You say stuff because it's what Andy taught you to say, and it's what you're doing. And then, years later, when they talk about something you said, it's just, I'm so humbled by it. It just cracks me up. It's crazy. And same with you, Joseph, when we met in Phoenix and we had the Amway background commonality. And over the years, we've kind of talked in that language, and it's been great, man. It's been great seeing you go through the stuff you've gone through and come out on the other end smelling like a rose. It's cool. And then King of Array, you guys rocked it Wednesday. I was couldn't be so proud. I still want to adopt you guys. I'm going to figure that out somehow, some way, because you guys are the cutest couple in the alliance with the cutest kids. I'm just so happy you're in my group. I am kind of your great grandpa, I guess, but anyway. Discipline. I think the biggest thing is that for me, it's one thing to be disciplined, that you can go into habits that you do every day, but if it doesn't have an objective, then your heart is not in it. I've heard this. Here's what I've learned, is that if you're not passionate about what you're doing, you're not going to be very good at it. Even if you were passionate about selling, but you're no longer passionate about selling, I promise you're not going to be as good as when you were passionate. When you were passionate about building a business because you had an objective of changing the world, okay, but then you became no longer passionate because it just became something you did just out of habit, there's no effectiveness in that because you're not as good. And it's interesting, we're talking about discipline, but a discipline without passion and the desire of doing what you're doing leads to nothing. If you don't have that passion, you don't have that focus, what you're trying to accomplish. Otherwise, it just becomes a habit that takes you nowhere. You get up early. People say, well, if I get up early, man, I'm going to get so much more done before everyone else. Well, if you get up early and, you're sitting there doing nothing with that time, yeah, you got the discipline getting up early, but you didn't really accomplish anything, right? So I think the proper discipline is the biggest thing for me that has changed. And I find that over the years, even though my schedule has been disciplined, it's the passion with which I exercise that discipline that's really honestly made all the difference in the world. And sometimes you have to figure out, what are you passionate about? Here's one thing I figured out, dude, is that when I had to figure out what do I really value? I was reading a book, I think it was a Matthew Kelly book, and he said in it, he goes, if you tell me that you value family, you value your practice, your business, if I followed you like a fly on the wall throughout the day, would your actions line up with your values? And I had to think about that. I had to go through this mental audit of, okay. And I thought about the things I was doing, and it was like, it didn't line up. Like if I told people, yeah, I love God and my spiritual life, but they follow me around and I'm cussing here, cussing there. I'm not kind to people and my prayer life sucks. Then it doesn't match what I say I value. I value probably, anarchy, I mean, it's just, so what I figured out was I need to be disciplined in the things that line up, in the actions that line up with my values. If I can do more of the things that line up with the things I value, then not only am I going to be happier because I'm more fulfilled, but my life becomes congruent. Sometimes we think about doing, focusing on only one thing, business, man, business, and your other life is, okay, my family life. And, sometimes we try to segment this idea of work-life balance. And you wake up one day and you say, okay, I'm going to do more work than life. And then the next day is, I'm going to do more life than work. It's like, it's a veil. It's actually the thing that people think about that totally screws them up. It's not about work-life balance, gang. It's about creating a life of fulfillment, doing things that align up with your values. And when you wake up with the discipline of applying discipline to those things that you value, man, you're living a life that's fulfilled with you're doing everything. Because you know what? Guess what, Joseph? You only have one life. You don't have a life as a husband, a life as a business builder, and a life as a friend, a life as a son. You have one life. Right. So if you apply discipline in living that one life properly in the things that you value, man, there's nothing you cannot accomplish.
Oh, absolutely. And at the same time, I'm reminded of, and I think it was probably a conversation I had with with Brad Duncan when I was in the Amway business, was I was talking about that life balance thing, and I was struggling, I was broke, and he's like, bro, I think he tried to use a biblical term. He says, your ass is in the mud. And I didn't realize what he meant. He says, dude, your donkey is stuck in the mud. You need to work like heck to get out of the mud. And if that means that you got to work, for the next 2 weeks, for the next 2 months to get yourself unstuck, absolutely. Then, but I get what you're saying. It's like you have to have passion in what you're doing. And, there may be a time that you're going to be, crazy focused on one thing, to get yourself unstuck, and then to be able to find that. I mean, I guess there really isn't work-life balance. That was really what Matthew Kelly was talking about, right?
Right. It's a veil.
Gotcha.
Because you're doing one thing over another. It's a trade-off. And if you live a life of trade-offs, you don't live a disciplined life, in my humble but accurate opinion. Discipline is applying energy to chaos with actions that align with your goals and with your values. That's kind of the simple definition for me. And the result of that is fulfillment. That's, and an effective life, a happy life. When you look at, come on, man. When you look at people with great marriages, they didn't just suddenly have a great marriage. They're the ones that apply discipline to having a great marriage. If you want a better spiritual life, you look at the people that have the best spiritual lives, they apply discipline to achieving that great spiritual life. If you want financial freedom, baby, anyone who's ever gotten to any level in the alliance that's worth respecting, they lived a life of discipline to get there. And how can you not understand that you have to do the same thing? If you're going to follow in the path of a Jason Mathis, Joseph Dukes, Jacob Verret, no matter where they're at in the business, they've all gotten where they are by applying very specific discipline and things that are effective and get results, right?
That's, yeah. Well, and we all have a different story. We all are coming from a different point A and point B. I know that we can look at Nick Greco and Mike Guerra, who, are just absolute studs. And it was crazy because I remember when they came in a couple years ago, and like to watch where they are today, even me, it's like, as I look at that and say, you got to be careful with the voice. Andy talks about, you live your life by the voices that you listen to and the choices. And sometimes the voices in your head are not necessarily all that healthy. So if you're looking at like a thing of judgment of like, well, how come I'm not X because this person is there? A lot of people watch how fast, Greco and Gara have grown. And at the same time, everyone comes in at a different point A. So, I mean, if on a map, like, we're all looking to get to point B is whatever level of success. It's like we all come in at a different level of point A. And so I'm going to agree with Jason on that. This is the best business in the world because it doesn't matter. Heck, I got kicked out of college. I barely graduated high school. I mean, I think I came in with like a D+ average out of high school. But that part doesn't matter. What matters is that I had a different point A than say someone else. Alex Avian came into this thing with, Air Force Academy graduate, incredibly intelligent, understand all this stuff. And he was farther ahead than someone like me. But the cool thing is that we all have the same track. We all have the same opportunity. But we have to, if we don't apply the discipline to get to point B, dude, we're just spinning our wheels. And if you want a great marriage, like I want to have great relationships, with people. I want to have great relationships with my partner. I want to have great relationships with my kids. What do I need to do? I need to get around, Andy. I need to get around, Alex. I need to get around Jake and Bray. I need to get around people that have great marriages and great, things, great relationships with their kids. And then guys, just, we have such a fantastic event coming up in a little over 2 months. Like, this is going to be a life-changing event. I am so grateful that Andy brought Mark Asada into the Alliance. Like, he is saying things that I have heard for 40 years, and I'm older than 40. But this is stuff I've heard forever, and it's cool because I'm hearing it in a different way, and it's impacting me in a different way. So if you're a parent and you've ever told something to your kid again and again and again and again and again, and then your kid comes home from school and says, "Mom, Dad, guess what I learned today from Miss Susie, my teacher?" And it's the same crap you've been telling them, and all of a sudden it's this huge epiphany. Like, don't get pissed. It's like your kid just couldn't hear you. It's like, be grateful the fact that they could hear it from the teacher, and heck, give the teacher an apple. Like, thank the teacher thank you for teaching my kid what the heck I've been trying to teach them their whole dang life. And this is what Mark Aseta is doing for us, guys, is that he's bringing these principles back to life that Andy has been coaching into us for a long time. And we're able to take this. And guys, this is going to be an event that will springboard you if you choose. If you get that passion that Alex is talking about, if you get the discipline that Jason is talking about, if you get the heart that Jake and Bray have, guys, if you will put those things together and join us in Las Colinas, Texas on the 26th of January. Thank you very much. That is my Spanish for the day. It's Dallas. Guys, the 26th through the 28th of January, it is going to change your life if you choose to show up and you choose to take what we're going to be taught there and execute it in your life the next night, starting for 90 days and then running that through all of 2024. And, I know, Jake was talking about this on Wednesday, and Alex has been talking about it. Like you can either get a start January 1, which is like, I mean, dude, that's a hard start. If you're waiting around for January to get your life going, it's going to suck, because you're going to have a bunch of people that are doing, I mean, like, some of us already got it in 6th gear. We're trying to find a 7th gear. We're trying to find nitrous. We're trying to figure out how we can, drive a truck like a Dodge Raptor, like Jake does, and go 120 miles an hour. And the starting line is January 1, but really it's going to be rolling into National Convention and really being able to take over and make 2024 something that like you'd be proud of. Like, at the end, we are right now, it's November the 3rd. What if next year, if you chose to do what Alex was talking about in Atomic Habits, which is get 1% better. Guys, if you chose today to get 1% better today, and 1% better tomorrow, and 1%. I mean, I know we all are looking for for 6-pack abs in 6 minutes. Let's throw that out the window. It's not going to happen. What if you could get 6-pack abs in the next 365 days? How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to have to move every day. We're going to have to watch what we put in our pie hole every day. We're going to have to do something every single day. And I tell you what, if we focus on the little things every day in our business, every day in our life, every day in our relationships, every day in our spiritual relationships and our physical stuff, next year at this time, when we're on this call, the beginning of November, we're going to be 37 times better. Not 1% better. You're going to be 370% better than you would be if we did nothing. So guys, thank you, Alex. Thank you, Jake and Bray. Thank you, Jason, for being here. Guys, the thing I want to close you guys out on is, and I took this from Jocko. He talks about, discipline, free your mind, get up and go. Let's get after it and become the person that you want to, and you're going to do it one decision at a time. One decision at a time, guys. So excited to see you guys. Las Colinas, Texas, the 26th of January. Thank you, Andy and Jane, for asking me to be here today. And thanks, guys, for everything that you did. Love y'all, and we'll see you guys next week. Adios.